was in 2013 when they had the large bumblebee kill in Wilsonville. That galvanized the issue in front of the public in general, and I think the public said, okay, Salem, get your act together, do something, help us protect the bees. And so one of the things that came out of that was a desire to create more bridges to the community from all the researchers who are saying, this is what we know about the bee. And so BEEvent was, in a sense, one of the big bridges that we tried to build between the OSU people and the community.
From the Oregon State University Extension Service, this is PolliNation, a podcast that tells the stories of researchers, land managers, and people like you who are making bold strides to improve the health of pollinators. I'm your host, Dr. Adoni Melathopoulos, Associate Professor of Pollinator Health in the Department of Horticulture. As I'm recording this episode, there is a snowstorm on the horizon for Western Oregon, but I know in my heart, as February draws to a close, like every year, there's going to be BEEvent. BEEvent is this annual event that's hosted by the Linn County Master Gardeners, and it provides gardeners and small farmers with practical knowledge and tools on how to help bee pollinators. This year is going to be a really great lineup, so I thought it would be a good occasion to catch up with some of the organizers. We are joined by Ranee Webb, who is a Linn County Master Gardener, a longtime organizer of the event, and also an instructor on mason bee culture, as well as Rich Little, who was kind of the inspiration for the starting of BEEvent back in 2014. He's an entomologist, master gardener, Oregon naturalist, and master melitologist. Many of you probably have also been taught how to keep mason bees by Rich. The program this year is packed and full of education on mason bees, hoverflies, pest management in your garden. There's going to be vendors there, and registration is open now. It's $35. I'm going to have the link in the show note. As soon as you hear this message, go ahead and register. And without further ado, let's head over to the 11th annual BEEvent this week on PolliNation. Welcome to PolliNation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So glad to have you guys back on the show. Well, Ranee, were you on that? We had a show about BEEvent a bunch of years ago, and I can't remember, many years ago. So we're going to be revisiting it in this show. But before we get going, I would be remiss. I've got Rich on the episode to ask him what many people are wondering: how did mason bees go last year?
Well, my goodness, that's a question. Every year, some places do well and others don't do well. Last year, I would say there was a very significant change in regards to the number of bees, but more importantly, in my mind, when I was looking at them, the size of the cocoons.
Really?
If we can think of it, last year was kind of a long, cold spring. And I get the feeling that perhaps a lot of these bees were not able to collect as much pollen and nectar as they normally would have. But we also know that the amount of food that the larva ends up with will determine the ultimate size of the bee. So I did notice there were a number of males that were very small and some females as well. So I'm hoping this year will be better. Not that last year was a loss by any means. It was just not one of the better years.
Well, let's hope for a good mason bee year. And I guess one of the reasons I started with mason bees is, BEEvent grew out of a growing interest in gardeners in mason bees.
Yes.
But it's really grown to be much, much more than that. Ranee, maybe remind our listeners about the origins of BEEvent, and I want to hear from both of you on how you think it's changed over the years.
Well, this all kind of started with Rich when he first became a master gardener, and he was talking to Barb Vick, and they were talking about pollinators and how they could help them and so forth. And so about 11 years ago, this is our 11th conference that we're going to have, we started BEEvent Pollinator Conference, really didn't not knowing exactly where what it was going to go. We had about 50 people attend the first one, and now we have generally between 125 and 180, plus a few that do an online option. And so we're getting a lot of people to know what's going on. We are focusing primarily on the home gardener and small farm things. We haven't really focused a lot on honeybees because there's so many resources out there covering that. So we're trying to stick more with some of the native pollinators and some of the beneficial insects as well. We're slowly over time covering a variety of things. We've had a bunch of experts from all over the country come and talk to us, a lot of OSU experts, but also people that have come from to cover mason bees, wasps, bumblebees, butterflies, pest management, and best practices. So we're very excited that we can share this information with people and get home gardeners more involved. We don't necessarily cover it on a high level scientific area. That's not to mean we don't cover science at all. We do, but we want to be sure that we get more people involved in best practices and taking care of all the bees.
I remember being at some of the very early, I've been, I think, most of them, and I'm always really impressed by how accessible the information is. There's vendors there, there is informational talks, there are enthusiasts like our listeners who are milling about, who you get to have conversations with in the hallway. So, Rich, what about you? What have been your observations of the change of BEEvent over time?
Well, 2011 was my first year as a master gardener. And in 2011, 2012, and 13, we kept getting more and more people from the public walking in the door asking for help. How do I take care of my mason bees? You're all dying on me. And so there was a few people doing that. But I think one of the catalysts that really started this wildfire was in 2013 when they had the large bumblebee kill in Wilsonville. That galvanized the issue in front of the public in general. And I think the public said, okay, Salem, get your act together, do something, help us protect the bees. And so one of the things that came out of that was a desire to create more bridges to the community from all the researchers who are saying, this is what we know about the bee. And so BEEvent was, in a sense, one of the big bridges that we tried to build between the OSU people and the community. And that just kept expanding as the year went by to more experts from outside the state. And here we are, 11 years. I just never dreamed it would go like this, but it sure has.
It's so impressive what the Linn County Master Gardeners have built, and it really, I don't think there is, for listeners who haven't attended a BEEvent in the past, it really is the largest event of its kind that I can think west of the Cascades. It really is a place where you go to learn, and that bridge that Rich was talking about is really built, it's constructed, and that there's so many touch points for you if you're interested in pollinators to up your game. And I guess coming back to you, Rich, I guess we got 11 years, 10 years of BEEvents. What is year 11 have in store? What's the 2025 BEEvent going to be like?
Well, I think one of it is strengthening the bridge, and another one is building new bridges. For example, we're now becoming aware of a very significant pest of mason bee, the Houdini fly, which was found in Washington of 2017. We now realize it's got a very serious, significant pest, and we don't have good ways yet to deal with it. But one of the best things we can do is to reach out to a lot of these people saying, I'm finding some strange things in my bee block. What's going on? So it becomes more and more important for us to get this information out. And I think Ranee will talk a little bit later about the bee notes that we put together as another bridge to help us reach the community and answer their questions. So one of the speakers will be talking about the Houdini fly.
Great.
One of the other speakers will be speaking about syrphid flies or hover flies. They're very important pollinators that most people are not aware of and don't know of. So this is another way we do the outreach, is to continuing education as well. And then we have our expert at OSU, Sylvia, who is going to talk about ways to have a more healthier garden with being careful what kind of pesticides you use and other techniques that can help the garden and protect the bee.
Those are fantastic. And I imagine many people, for example, don't think about hoverflies, in their garden as they think of them as pollinators, but I guess that's the bridge, is that they're also pest management, that their larvae are voracious aphid eaters.
I mean, we're getting a lot of this information from the Garden Ecology Lab, which is one of the special programs over at OSU. It is the only one, to my knowledge, that is covering any information about hoverflies
Yes.
as a local person can do in their garden. They're not even aware of these incredibly important pollinators and beneficial.
I thought Gail herself, Gail Ungalato, the lead of the lab, will also be speaking.
She is going to, I asked her to come and bring us up to date about what the Garden Ecology Lab is doing, what the future holds, because I'm hoping more people will support that lab.
It's a great lab at OSU, and I think it's in the spirit of what you talked about, Rich, about bridging, taking the latest science and putting it to work in your garden and being able to up your
Oh, it's
garden
fun.
and make it more sustainable.
It's fun to learn all this new stuff.
Well, we do have vendors coming. They will be a variety of vendors. Some of them will be covering, we'll have honey, we'll have some things on different types of lavender products and things like that. There'll also be some nonprofits that'll be giving a lot of information. I don't have the complete list because I think it's still being finished and worked on, but we will also have bee supplies available for mason bees. They are much less expensive to take care of, not quite as labor intensive as honeybees. So, and it is part of our fundraiser. The conference itself is an education part, but the fundraiser for us is primarily the bee supply stuff. Well, we'll have cocoons available, and we sell loose cocoons that are raised here in the Willamette Valley. And that's really important. We don't want to have people ordering them from out of state. We would like to have them be a loose, inspected and cleaned cocoon so that we better put out cocoons that are ready for our environment and are native to this area. So we'll have all of that. We just want to have fun talking to each other and kind of networking, making sure that we have hen gardeners and small farm people more aware of what they need to do for best practices.
If I may just do a quick plug, there's the mason bee houses and supplies that you can I guess you can order them through the Linn County Master Gardeners, but you really go to the BEEvent to pick them up. They're the best constructed mason bee houses. I love the laminated blocks, for example. You will buy these laminated blocks from the store, and they've got this elastic, and it doesn't provide this tight seal. These laminated blocks that you produce have these nice Allen key wrenches to tighten everything down, and an easy way to seal the back with a piece of tape, and these really well constructed houses that, anyways, it's worth it just to go to BEEvent for just the material that you guys produce. I will also say that for the last few years, have been getting my cocoons from BEEvent, and they're really high quality bees. And as you mentioned, they are locally sourced, and there's a lot of care put into making sure that we're not introducing exotic pests and things. But I guess people may go to BEEvent and not know this and show up unaware that they're going to have live cocoons that they have to drive back to Portland. Ranee, how do they get ready for that?
Well, one of the things, besides ordering a lunch ahead of time and registering, we want to be sure that you bring along a cooler, because those cocoons are getting ready and getting to that natural period of time where they're ready to hatch. So if you'll bring a cooler, bring a small bag of ice, and then maybe a washcloth or a towel to keep the bees from being on top of the ice. Have that in your car. whether or not you think you're going to buy cocoons or not, you may get very excited while you're there and realize, hey, this is a fun little activity. It is just a spring. The mason bees are just spring bees. So you get to watch these bees go around, and then we make sure that you know how to take care of them. We'll have handouts for you and information and talk also on mason bees. About 40% to 60% of our attendees are usually first-time attendees, so they don't really know a lot about mason bees. So we want to be sure that we cover that each time. And also we want those who do know about it to be advocates and be knowledgeable about some of the new best practices. You mentioned the blocks, and we have a new recommendation to add liners to them. We didn't do that in the past, and we'll talk about that at the event and also in our some of our other publications to let people know why we're doing that.
Well, I will say I have run into people who do go to BEEvent and don't order their lunch, and they're sitting there sadly, order your lunch, folks. Get your registration in now and have a sandwich.
Well, one of the problems if you don't bring a lunch or whatever is that the parking lot does get very, very full at the expo center during the day. So if you decide you want to go out to lunch, we only have a 45-minute break. The possibility is that it's going to take quite a while to find a parking spot, and you'll be late to the wonderful talk for the after lunch. So we also do provide cookies and some water available to you and coffee. So we want to make you comfortable for the day and enjoy schmoozing with all of us.
Rich, I saw you wanted to come in. Got you excited talking about the blocks and some of the new innovations. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Well, I'm very proud of those blocks because I've gone to a number of other groups like the Orchard Bee Society, and I have not seen any of them like our blocks. And you mentioned the biggest reason is the fact that we can clear down the different walk or blocks without leaving a gap is also critically important to help spread or help prevent the spread of the mites. So we have come up with a number of tools, blocks, and procedures. For example, I'm looking online and I still see most of those shows on YouTube are about, well, when you clean the mason bees, be sure you use bleach. It's one of those things, if you really want to find out what bleach is about, you need to come to the BEEvent because the bleach is not there to kill the mites. All it does is clean them up after they're dead. We kill them by other means. And that's the value of this BEEvent because we are showing some of these techniques that I have yet to see in other places.
Get your sandwich ordered, get your registration, show up at BEEvent, and you will learn all the secret handshakes of mason bee culture. But just to maybe end on mason bees, one thing that I always recommend in all my extension talks, whenever anybody wants to know about mason bees, I have a QR code and I say, subscribe to Bee Notes. Describe, maybe Rich, what is Bee Notes, why you should subscribe, and what you can expect.
Well, actually, I think Ranee would be a lot better at describing it. But, to me, it is the ultimate bridge because it's a resource that you can go back to time and time again. It also gives those people an opportunity to think, my God, I'm not the only one that has this problem, and there's a solution to it. Go ahead, Ranee. Tell them about it.
Okay, well, what we do is we put out not as many as we should. We put probably about 12 to 14 Bee Notes out a year. Some of them will be suggestions on exactly when you should do certain processes. We want to tell you about when to put out your cocoons and what you're looking for in your yard, and we'll give you very detailed instructions on that. We want to give you instructions around the 1st of June to bring in your bee houses because we want to protect your cocoons from a parasitic wasp that comes out about then. We'll give you information about some cocoon harvesting classes that we put on each year so that you can get help from us knowing exactly what you're seeing inside of all those tubes and liners. Then we also try to share some of this research-based articles that we come across to just make you more aware of what's going on, not only at OSU, but even around the world as far as research is concerned. We do not sell any of your information. So it's something that we keep just for the Linn County Master Gardeners so that we can get in touch with you. I do want to say one thing that we probably haven't said enough times here is that you can sign up for BEEnote and sign up for the Linn County Master Gardener conference by going to linnmastergardeners.com. It is gardeners with an S. So linnmastergardeners.com. We have other information on that website. We're adding more information all the time. It does take time for us to add more in. We've changed our database and platforms and so forth. So we're re-adding information back in, but we just check that periodically and you'll get a lot of information as well as finding out when to sign up for the BEEvent, how to sign up for BEEnotes, and how to sign up for the cocoon harvesting classes, which are really important for you to have really healthy bees, to know exactly what's inside those tubes and liners or in those blocks.
We'll have the links to both the BEEvent registration, the pollinator section of Linn County Master Gardeners, and also how to subscribe to BEEnotes in the show notes. So if you're watching on YouTube, it'll be right below. And also if you are listening through Apple Play or whatever, it'll be in the description. So please check those out. And the one thing I did want to add, I always love, I know what's going to happen. It happens every year. You know this. Both of you know this. You're going to have this sunny day in March and you're going to be like, I'm going to put my bees out. And then you'll get a BEEnote will come into your inbox saying, don't do it. Wait. The fall springs always are, slow. You don't get the returns. It's that kind of timely information coming into your inbox when you're like, what should I do now? You have these mentors that, as Rich said, bridge out to you and give you the timely advice so you'll be successful. It's always great. But I know that email is going to come out and I know I'm going to want to do it.
We're good.
Patience
Hold
is
on.
really hard. Thank you for helping us. You've been a great support to us this whole time.
Very much. I'll be looking forward to the conference the day after.
Yes, that's right. We have shared speakers in the past. There's a Master Melitologist conference the next day. It really makes the first weekend in March the bee occasion here in the Western Cascades part of Oregon. Thank you so much to the two of you. Good luck on what I'm sure will be another successful 11th annual BEEvent. And I look forward to everybody listening who's in the area to after you're done, go register, order your sandwich, and get your cooler ready to bring some cocoons home with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for listening. Show notes with links from each episode are available at the website pollinationpodcast.oregonstate.edu. I also love hearing from you, and there's a form at the website where you can pop in and say hello and give me feedback. If you want to support the show, remember to leave a rating on iTunes, Spotify, or whatever podcast mothership you use. And finally, if you have the means and you want to help support my lab's effort to document bee biodiversity in Oregon, visit OregonBeeAtlas.org and follow down to the donate button where you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Jerry and Judith Paul Native Pollinator Endowment. Every little bit helps. See you next episode.